you're joining from. I'd also like to let you know that this meeting is being recorded. Yeah, so thank you very much. You're welcome. We have Habiba Yakubu joining in from Abuja. It's good to have you here. Dr. Kanadi from Maiduguri, Borno State, you're welcome. Hello, you're welcome. You're welcome, everyone. It's so good to have you join us. We have Nonye Tabansi joining in from Abuja. You're welcome. Please go ahead and introduce yourselves. You're welcome. And to push it further, if you can tell us what you do. Yeah, so if you're in development, what sector are you working in? If you're not, or you're trying to get in, tell us what sector you're interested in. Let's make the chat to be interesting and pop. Hi, Mayowa from Lagos. It's good to have you here with us. Thank you for joining. Welcome. Let's see. Also from the participants, I can see Mivanyi was a Mari joining from Maiduguri, humanitarian aid worker, nutrition sector. You're welcome. We have Dr. Nancy, spoiler alert, that's my mom, joining you from Abuja. You're welcome. It's so good to have my mom here joining. We have, let me look at the attendance. Lillian, oh, Lillian, welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's so good to have you here. Let's see. Udono Basi, you're welcome. Temidayo Musa, Sabina O, Pauline, Adaeze, everyone, you're welcome. So I'll just give 1 more minute for introductions before I move forward. So we have Temidayo Musa from Lagos. Yeah, welcome, Temidayo. Civic Hive Budget Foundation. Yes, you're welcome. It's so good to have you here. Habiba is interested in education and climate change. You're welcome, Habiba. Climate change and education is actually the future, so it's good to have you here. Jenny from UK, thank you for joining us. You're welcome. Okay, everyone, it's really good to have you. I'm going to go ahead to share my screen just to put us through the agenda for today. So please let me know if you can see. Just a minute. Okay, can you all see my screen? Okay. So I'm just going to proceed and share what we have today. So you're welcome to the first edition of the development conversations. The title for today's session is Beyond the Project Outcomes. Is our work meaningful? And this presentation is a very short and precise one. So we're going to look at the agenda. So what do we have planned for today? And then introduce the development conversation, the initiative itself, and then introduction of the webinar and purpose or the objectives of why we are here today. So I'm just going to quickly look through the agenda with us. So right now we're looking at welcome and introduction, where we're welcoming the participants and provide an overview of the session and then why we're here. And so if you're joining us, if you just joined us now, you're welcome. Please, you can drop your name in the group and let us know where you're coming from or where you're joining from. And if you're in development, what sector you're working in, and if you're interested in development, what area you'd want to join. I also like to let you know that the meeting is being recorded. Then we're going to move on to an icebreaker where my colleague Maureen Allo will lead that session. And then there's going to be a brief opening remarks and introduction of our guests. And we'll dive straight into the the question and answer. So the reason why we are here, we're going to spend some time just asking questions asking the guests questions, and then hearing their feedback, they're going to share their experiences with us, challenges and different things around the topic. And then we're going to open the floor for questions from the audience. If you registered, you would have received the reminder yesterday and this afternoon, a couple of minutes ago, with a link asking you to send in your questions. If you haven't done so, you're still going to have an opportunity to share your questions. We want this session to be very interactive, and so we do hope that you share your questions with us. And then during this session also, if you have any comments or inputs or feedback, also you're free to share that. And that will take us to the end of the meeting or the webinar between 4:05 to 4:10, where we will have the opportunity to, you will have the opportunity to fill the feedback form. So for us to get better and to understand how well and evaluate how well this session went, we would want to hear from you. And then the closing remarks will take us to 4:15. You're welcome once again, and it's really good to have you here. I'm going to spend the remaining 3 minutes to just quickly look at why we are here, what the introduction to the development conversations. Apologies that these fonts are really tiny. Sorry, just a minute. Okay. So the development conversations is a platform for development practitioners to engage in meaningful discussions about our work. It empowers our well-being, innovative practices we can adopt for continuous learning and relevance, and strategies for sustaining long-term engagement within our sector. So as a development practitioner for a couple of years now, I noticed that we do not have the space or the platform to actually have meaningful conversations. Now, that does not mean that we've not been having meaningful conversations. We've been having these discussions, but they're usually behind doors, you know, among ourselves and things like that. And sometimes, to a large extent, they are hush-hush. And that's because for a long time, I'm not just as a development practitioner, but also as someone that has worked across different spheres, from being a classroom teacher to a healthcare worker, and I've done different things. I know that a lot of times employees are really hesitant to share their burdens or share their concerns. And even when they do, there's also that fear of repercussion. And apart from that, sometimes a lot of conversations are negative leaning. So it's either we come together and complain, you know, without finding a way forward. So basically, this is a platform where we have honest and meaningful conversations that we drive change. So we don't just want to talk about the things that are of concerns to us, but we also want to find solutions and a way forward. The whole idea is that by the end of every conversation that we have, people actually leave with a sense of hope, inspiration, clarity. They have answers, or they're either taking, you know, oh, I need to correct the way I do things and the likes of it. So this is why we are here. Our objectives, number one, is to promote well-being. So basically, we're going to address issues around our mental health, work-life balance, and overall well-being. You know, as development workers or development practitioners, we can work around the clock, even during holidays. So how do we ensure that we are actually taking care of ourselves while still meeting the needs meeting the unlimited needs? Please, if you don't mind, kindly mute your mics. And then also, we want to encourage innovation by sharing innovative practices and technological advancements. So many things are happening, like practices that were relevant a couple of years ago are no longer relevant. So how do we as development practitioners keep doing work efficiently, remaining at the cutting edge while meeting the needs of the people that are working with and maximizing our impact? And then we want to assess our impact. So like the topic today that we're going to be looking at, beyond project outcomes, how do we ensure that our work is meaningful? So these are the questions we're going to answer. So we're going to facilitate discussions to evaluate the meaningfulness and effectiveness of our work as development practitioners. Finally, explore strategies for career development, job satisfaction, and long-term commitments to development work. I am sure everyone here, or even beyond development workers, beyond being a development practitioner, if you are an employee in this particular time, or even in Nigeria or in the world generally, you know how volatile the job market is. So how do we as development practitioners, how do we explore strategies for long-term engagement? How do we ensure that we actually also enjoy the work that we're doing? That is for job and satisfaction, and things like that. So these are some of the conversation or the objectives for the development conversation. So the purpose of this session in particular, we all know that our work is guided by project outcomes, and that is determined by, we have the donor, determined by the need, determined by the context you're working in. So if you're a humanitarian worker, I know someone in the chat introduced themselves as a humanitarian worker. The set of objectives you're trying to meet will be totally different from someone that is a development worker. And then also you don't know, or the funder you're working with will determine the kind of objectives you meet. But beyond this project, outcomes, like how do we ensure that our work is meaningful? So that is what we want to look at. Some of the questions we want to answer is, how do we know our work is meaningful to us and the people we are reaching? How do we know when our work is meaningful in general? And how do we ensure we keep doing meaningful work? So you're going to be hearing a lot of meaningful. So, and then, like I said, we want it to be a very interactive session. And yeah, thank you very much. The objectives for this session: briefly, to explore and identify the true impact of our work beyond project deliverables, to identify common challenges we face as development practitioners and the ways these challenges can be navigated, and then to foster a space for honest discussions about measuring and maximizing development interventions' long-term sustainable impact. Sorry, that was a mouthful, but as you know, like if you have been in this field for long, we're always talking about long-term sustainability, impact, outcomes, and the rest. So for those of us that are here and not in the development field, this will be a wonderful time of learning. And for my colleagues too that are in this field, we're so happy to have you here. Thank you once again for giving us your time. And then I'll be handing over to my colleague, Maureen Allo, for the next session. Thank you.
All right. I just have to confirm if you can hear me. Can you hear me? All right. Just to confirm if you can hear me. Can you hear me? All right. Wonderful. Oh, yeah. We're finally here. Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you all here. Welcome to developing. I'm a young practitioner. We are taught about the development space and then guide us how we can implement projects that create social impact. So I don't know, can you hear me? My network is unstable for a bit. All right, okay. So to get us started, I'll be moderating an icebreaker session. I know Lady T had to tell us what the TDC is all about, the objective, the goals, and everything. And I feel like our energy is a little bit low. So this is like an energizer to get us started for today. But meanwhile, I would love to see reactions. Can you give me a reaction? Give me fire emoji. Let's ginger ourselves, please. I want to see reaction. You can use your reaction button actually. Yes. Jenny, thank you. Aha, our energy is up, and that's what I want to see. So, all right. So to get us started with the energizer, we'll be asking a question, right? Just to gauge our initial thoughts about the topic. It's going to be a quick poll. The question is development work meaningful? It's just a yes or no answer. I'll be sharing a link right now. And give me a minute. I'll be sharing a link for us. Yeah, okay. Yeah. So check the chat box. Just click on the link and vote your answer. Is it a yes or no? The question is development work meaningful? We have 30 seconds to respond to this before the poll closes. So yeah, we have to be fast because we have 5 minutes for this session. So yeah, I'll be sharing my screen also to see what our responses are. Give me a minute. Yeah. Okay. Some answers are already dropping in. Okay. All right. And let's go. All right. Okay. Wow, we have. Okay. Yeah. Keep the answers coming. Do you think development work is meaningful? Yes or no? And I'm sure those persons who voted no, they have their reasons. And I'm eager to hear what our answers are and why we choose that particular option. So yeah, let me see. We have how many persons on this call? We have almost over 40 persons. I hope we're not encountering any challenges in, using the link to vote our answers. Vote for our answers. Okay. Yeah, let's go. We have few minutes for this session so that we can get started. I have my notepad ready. So just dancing. Okay. Let me see. Are we done voting? The responses are low. Okay, yeah. Let's go. It's coming up. A lot of persons are going for yes. A lot of persons are going for yes. All right, so you know what? After the voting, I'm going to probably call on 3 volunteers to just share their thoughts, to share why they think development work is meaningful. Just to hear why you choose that answer, just to hear your thought process. Why did you pick this option? Are we done voting? If we're done voting, can I see reactions, please? If we're done voting so that we can move on. Okay. Yes or no? Okay, all right. And if you're not sure, it's still fine. I know the options is limited. Is it a yes or a no? And there's no, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm seeing I'm not sure. I'm seeing no and I'm seeing yes. So some persons voted for I'm not sure and then no. All right. I think we'll be closing the poll now so that we can just call on 3 volunteers who can just share why they chose a yes or a no. We have 29 yes and 3 I'm not sure. All right, I have Faith's hand up. Faith, please can you unmute and then share the reason why you chose any of the answers? Or tell us your answer and then give us a reason why you chose the answer.
All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Although I think I went for I'm not sure.
Okay.
I went for I'm not sure, but I'd say the reason why, but I fall within the yes category. Why? Because why I said I'm not sure is because do ground for me to say, okay, as much impact or to quantify. But I would say the reason why most people are saying yes is because in one way, in one part of our lives, maybe in the past, we could trace a work that a development team came to do that impacted our lives, even if it was minimal. Even if it was minimal, maybe you want to compare to how much money was given for that project. but that it was even done, that they even did the minimal work they did, would affect a community. For instance, I grew up in Kaduna State, in the suburbs, or should I say rural, very, very rural part of that side. And then I can't forget the times where they brought books, and those little storybooks, even if it was one, it kind of changed the trajectory of for things for me, even if it was one. And maybe they gave them a lot of money for it, but then that one book, I can still trace it to something that I did for me. So that's well, that's why I'm in the middle anyway. So I can trace, development work to, some impact. It does some impact. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Maureen, if you're responding, your mic is on mute, so we can't hear anything you say.
Sorry. I was actually responding to your thoughts. Your perspectives. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Faith. So we have Sabina. Please, can you unmute and then share your answers?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sabina, and I am for the yes. I've been in this field, I've been in this space for about 9 years, and not because I've been part of the people implementing, but because I have gotten feedback, because I have gotten responses from the communities we serve, explaining to us the extent, the depth of how meaningful our work is. So I would say that, yes, this work is very meaningful. It changes, it has helped a lot of lives. You can't imagine. I have a particular case study of a child that would have died of malnutrition. Even though that child has grown up and has, yes, he still has a little bit of deformities because he was really hit. But because of the work we did supporting that child up till about his 3-4 years, that child survived, he grew, and he was developing as at the last time we checked. So I can beat my chest anywhere to say development work is meaningful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sabina, for sharing that perspective. Sharing your perspective regarding the question. Is development work meaningful? And I quite agree with you. It doesn't matter, no matter how little you just put in, you will definitely see a result. Sometimes this result might not be big as we imagined it to be, but then that little that you've been able to put in will definitely yield something beautiful. Thank you. So we have Dimeji. Dimeji, please, can you quickly share your thoughts and let's move. Let's go.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My answer was yes, and I align with Sabina. I think the only thing I would add is the essence of development work, which is targeted at solving important societal problems. So my answer is yes, because it's meaningful, because that we are trying to solve important issues in society, from health, nutrition, hunger, different things that will bring about the desired change we want to see in society. So that is why, for me, my answer is a yes, and I say development work is meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dimeji. Honestly, this question is centered around today's topic, and a lot of insights are already coming in. I cannot wait for Tobi and the guest speakers to give us a bigger perspective of why do we think our work is meaningful and what we should, do with our work and how we can make our work meaningful in the development space. All right, so yeah, that was actually insightful. I get to understand why some persons are sitting on the fence and why some persons are also, bent on telling us that yes, their work is meaningful, no matter how you want to categorize it, right? All right, so Give me a minute. I'm just trying to sort this out. Okay, so to get us started, we'll be jumping right into the main session, right? And I will be introducing the convener, Tobi Ransomed. I told her her name is interesting. And sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, sorry, I need to stop sharing my screen. That's where the confusion is coming. Okay, yeah. Okay. All right. So I'll be introducing no other person than Tobi Ransomed. Yeah, she's the convener for the development conversation, and she has already welcomed us and when we started this session, and we got to hear her beautiful voice. But before I hand over the mic to her, I want to quickly read her bio so that we get to know who is Tobi Ransomed. Give me a minute, let me share my screen. Okay. All right, so Tobi Ransomed is a passionate, okay. Tobi Ransomed is a passionate and experienced educator who enjoys working with children, teachers, parents, and the larger community, including government stakeholders, to provide quality education. She has over 12 years of demonstrated professional experience in education in the development, humanitarian, and private sector spaces in Nigeria. She has a Master's of Arts in the Early Childhood Studies of the University of Huddersfield, United Kingdom. In the course of her career, Tobi has managed education projects funded by donors such as GAC, FCDO, ECHO, GIGS, Norwegian government, Dutch government, and the EU DEFCO. Therefore, she's experienced in project management, planning and implementation of complex and multi-thematic projects in international organizations and volatile high security contexts. She is also skilled in partnership management and stakeholders engagement with CBOs, NGOs, INGOs, community leaders structure, and government stakeholders at various levels. Among other things, Tobi has contributed to the development and implementation of thematic strategies relevant to various projects, donors such as gender equality and inclusion, education, and child protection, which have improved the quality of program implementation. She has also led the capacity development of teachers, formal and non-formal, in order to improve the quality of teaching and learning. I need to read because capacity joke. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please use your emoji to welcome Lady T, known as Tobi Ransomed. Yay!
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Maureen. And thank you for facilitating this session. It's been very interesting. It was really good to actually hear what everyone had to say. I personally would have loved to hear more from people that, you know, that were actually not sure. But it's also good to be among like mind. So okay, let me just quickly go into the introduction of our guest. But before I go into that, I want to say that, you know, the need for this session came because of the recent conversations that I've been having with my colleagues. So I've been working for a while in this sector, and recently I've had, I've been having interesting conversations. So when you go for workshops or you go for conferences, you meet the same type of people. So for example, now for the past year plus, I have been working on a foundational learning program. And then I end up meeting the same partners over and over again. And after a while, you can literally guess what each partner is presenting, or the challenges, or the way forward and everything. And it got to a point whereby we became tired. So I personally became tired because it felt like we were talking about the same thing over and over again without actually, so it felt like we're not moving forward. So the last conversation I had was a conference, a regional conference that an organization organized, and we went, and I could guess what every partner was going to present, and I was right. And then during lunch, I was having this conversation with them, and I asked them, like, okay, so we keep talking about the same thing. Are we really making a change? And then shortly after that, I have a conversation with with someone that I just met. The person is equally in this sector, and the same conversation came up. And we're wondering, because if you look at our context, Nigeria as a whole, it's like you're touching, like the challenges are a lot. And even if you seem to be making progress, you're not really sure how much of progress you're making. That's one. So on paper, we're actually like meeting our targets. But when you engage with people, it's like just a drop in the ocean. And then also another concern that we had was that, so for how long? You know, we've been working in this sector for a very long time, and it seems like we're still grappling with the same challenges. Is our work really meaningful? So these are the areas, like these are the conversations and the nuances that we want to pull out, because it's possible for people that have worked in this sector for a long time to become disillusioned or nonchalant. And then it ends up becoming about the money, or it ends up becoming about meeting your targets, or it ends up becoming about your promotion. And then also what we have seen consistently is that as people grow in their ranks, there's a way that they begin to lose touch with the people in the grassroots, right? And so it becomes about winning another proposal, or getting additional funding, you know, or ensuring that you meet your targets just because you don't want to spoil the name of your organization. So these are the kind of questions. And then for young people that are coming into this field, there's a sense of shock that comes in after they start interacting with the work itself. And I can also bring it back to my experience when I joined development. So before then, I had taught in the classroom, I did some volunteer work until rubber hits the road, and then I joined the development in humanitarian. And I had my first shocker because it felt like, oh my God, what I thought I could do was different from what is actually happening. And at that point in your career as a young person, if you do not have guidance, there's a chance that you might just lose it, get discouraged, change your career, or just go with the flow. So this is why we're having this conversation. We want to pull at these different challenges and the nuances and actually say, okay, yes, we're aware that this is how things are. Nevertheless, this is what we have done as practitioners to navigate our way and to ensure that our work remains impactful and meaningful. So thank you for everyone that have shared. I'm really glad that you actually see the meaning, the impact of what we are doing. So I'm going to go quickly to, just give me a minute to introduce our wonderful guests. So our first guest, we have Nwanyibuife Ugoje. I personally call her Adaeze because it's just easier to pronounce. I met Adaeze on a trip a couple of years ago. From the first time that we met, we just clocked. And my husband had to ask me, like, oh, do you know her from somewhere? We just clicked because we're both kindred spirits. And I'll just quickly go through her profile. She's a Prince 2 certified project management specialist with over 15 years of experience strategically managing and executing projects worth over 75 million within the healthcare, education, tech, gender, and justice sectors. She has expertise in project scaling, facilitation of multi-stakeholder workshops, and capacity building of projects or program teams and healthcare professionals across multiple African countries. She has served as one of the program implementation leads for a multi-country polio surveillance program that contributed to the achievement of Africa's WHO certified polio-free milestone in 2020. That is huge. Adah is the founder and CEO of DYGL Africa, an upskilling company that provides executive coaching and corporate trainings on communications, project management, and public speaking for African organizations and teams. Adah, we're really glad to have you here. and actually like hear from you. Our second speaker, hi Adah, it's good to see you. Our second speaker is Pauline Adah. I met Pauline Adah in one of the organizations I worked with in the Northeast. And from the day that I met her, we just clicked. But I would say the reason why we clicked was because she actually looks like my elder sister. So there was a bias there. But then as we started talking and working together, I mean, Pauline just showed that she is passionate about this work, committed, and also a team player. So Pauline is a dedicated professional in the field of public health nutrition with a decade of experience. She currently serves as a nutrition advisor on the USAID-funded Advancing Nutrition in Nigeria project implemented by Helen Keller International. In this role, Pauline provides comprehensive technical nutrition guidance for the programming and operations within Nigeria at both national and state levels. Pauline has held positions such as Senior Nutrition Officer, Nutrition Coordinator with Save the Children International, and Nutrition Program Manager with CRS in Northeast Nigeria. She holds a master's degree in sociology from ABU Zaria, Kaduna, and is currently pursuing an MPH program at Liverpool John Moore University, England. Pauline is proficient in English, Idoma, and Hausa, and she enjoys dancing and adventures a lot. So I can actually attest to that because every Friday, if Pauline is not at the field, you'll find her dancing in one studio somewhere in Abuja. So if you want me to connect you with her, please just talk to me. Pauline, it's so good to have you, and you're welcome. And we're going to dive straight or right into this wonderful session. All right, everybody, can we have some fire emojis? Okay, I can see people clapping. Yes, amazing. You're welcome, my ladies. And it is not intentional that we have all women here in this panel. We're going to have a lot of mix as we go on, but these were the people that came to my mind when I was thinking of this session. It's so good to have you, everyone. And we're going to go straight into it because we've gone deep into our time. But I would like to start with the question: why did you go into development? Adah, I would love for you to start this. Yeah, thank you. And then hand over to Pauline.
Sounds good. Thank you, Toby. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be on this call. So happy to be in the webinar. How did I get into development? So it was 2015. I was living in the US and I had recently done my master's in healthcare management. And I was moving back to Nigeria and I was looking for work. So that's the honest truth. I was looking for work and I wanted the work to align in some way to what I studied. So I didn't directly go into healthcare management, but I saw the opportunity to enter into public health and I took it. So that was mainly why. I wanted a job and I wanted to make impact at the same time. And so I'll turn it over to Pauline.
Thank you very much, Adah. And hello, everyone. It's amazing to be here. We'll be looking forward to this platform. And basically, I'll be very quick. I got into the space purely from passion, really. So I had always been interested in maternal and child health from the news. And I targeted studying mass communication because I wanted to hold health talk, shows on TV relating to mothers and children. So right from inception, I had that ongoing. In my course, as you see, medical sociology, I keyed in there so I could have that. And one of my lecturers then, very influential, Professor Dandu, he was into the development space. And so he bombarded us with lots of experiences, going to the communities and all of that. So I really had a pathway and I thought I would love to impact lives in this manner. So it was a smooth ride for me.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you very much, Pauline and Adah. I love the different ways that you came in. Adah was looking for a job and Pauline, was passionate from the beginning. And it actually highlights how different people come into different fields. It is not it's not like one size fits all kind of thing. So my next question would be that, so you've been working for a couple of years, right? So just give me a minute. So you've been working for a couple of years. How have you ensured that your work is meaningful? Also, feel free to just share with us what you think meaningful is. I want to say what you think meaningful mean, but that will be tautology. Anyway, so I'm going to start with Pauline, please. Oh, okay, yeah. So, host, please, can you unmute?
Okay, I'm here now. So very quickly again, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So I've been working for a couple of years, like just like you rightly said, and I've been lucky also to work in both the development sector and the humanitarian sectors, states like Maiduguri, Yobe, and all. How have I ensured that my work has been meaningful? I try as much as possible to keep the passion alive because that was my number one driving force, right? So I have, for me, meaningful. Let me come back to your earlier question. Meaningful for me means if it is impactful, really, if you can see the impact on even one person or two, for me, that is meaningful. And you can see the change in their lives and in their stories as well. So for me, regardless of the reactions of the clients that we work for, I have tried in my period of career to ensure that I do not take it upon myself that I am a savior. You know, we have been sent to do this for the community, and so you carry this posture of a savior as if though you're doing someone a favor. I try as much as possible to keep that in mind. And during our humanitarian, experiences, we had this 4 humanitarian principles that I felt really guided me as well. Number one, taking everybody to be human. So that's the aspect of humanity, independence, being neutral in the work I do, and being impartial in the work I do really helped me to maintain and ensure that my work was meaningful. So a quick example would be anytime I felt down or overly stressed, I would take a trip to the field to meet and engage with our clients, and that really kept me going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pauline. That is very powerful. So keeping your passion in mind, and being guided by principles, it's very important. And then also ensuring that you're connecting with the people that you're working with and not carrying it upon your head that you're a savior, because now we are not saviors. Over to you, Adah. Same question, please.
Okay, meaningful. So when I think of the word meaningful, I think of something that is purposeful, something that makes a positive impact, like Pauline said, and then also something that I believe I'm called to be part of. So how have I aligned my work to be meaningful? So similar to what Pauline said, right? One, I don't have the savior complex. I'm not here to save. I'm not even equipped to do that. But I do believe that we are all called, if we work in development, to be part of solutions to other people's problems. So I always took that point of view, especially when I first came in. I'm part of the solution. I am not the ultimate solution. So that's number one. Whenever I keep that in mind, I just put my head to the ground and I do the work I'm called to do, and I feel fulfilled. On the other end, when it comes to also making sure the work is meaningful, I really try to listen to what the people we're here to help say they want and need. I think many times in development, the reason why it can be a little bit frustrating is because we have all these lofty ideas of what other people in other communities need, because we are so exposed and so experienced, and we just know what's best for everybody else. But many times we implement certain initiatives, whether it's in public health, like I've worked in the justice sector or education, and it doesn't land. We spend all this time, all this money, all this effort, and it just doesn't land. The people that we're going to help in whichever community we're going to, they don't receive the initiative, they don't receive the new app or whatever it is. And you wonder why. And I think it's because many times we don't always consult them when we're trying to build something or implement something for them. So the way that I try to keep my work meaningful is keeping my ear to the ground, similar to what Pauline said. What are the people who I'm here to help saying they need? Not just what I think they need, what are they telling me and communicating that they need? And it's not always easy, especially if you're not a field team member and you're working in the office or you're working in the city and you're trying to support people that are going into the fields in communities. But I try to get that feedback from our field teams if I don't go myself. And I try to also, throughout the life cycle of a project or program I'm working on, keep checking in with the community members. Constant meetings, constant check-ins. How is this going? How is this app working for you? How is this initiative going? Are you seeing the difference? Is there anything you think we can improve on? So yeah, just the feedback from those we're supposed to help. I think that helps you ensure your work is actually meaningful and you're not just guessing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Some of the things that stood out for me is that sense of purpose, the fact or the reasoning that we are called to be part of solutions to other people, and then the important fact about listening to people. It's so important that we listen. Because the solution that we're providing is for them. And listening also is at different levels, if I may add. You have to listen to the government partners. You have to listen to the project participants at the lowest level, just listen, and also getting feedback. I saw community, Sabina's comments, community engagement and feedback. I actually worked with Sabina, and she was one of the first people that taught me about CRM, complaints response feedback mechanism. Yeah, and it was then that I saw the importance of always coming back to ask questions. How are we doing? What are we doing well? What do you have a concern about? And then that really helps programming. But most importantly, it helps to make the program or whatever intervention you're bringing impactful. So thank you very much. So now I would want you to share with us, like, what has held you back? Basically, like, what challenges have you faced in your work in ensuring that it is meaningful? Because to be honest, this work is not rosy. And yeah, so we want to know what has held you back. What are those challenges that you have overcome? What has distracted you? So tell us the problems and how you overcame them. So I'm going to start with Adaeze. Thank you.
I was hoping that Pauline would kick us off. Okay, challenges. They're always so plentiful, right? Okay, so the first thing that came to my mind was political will. Many times, like you read in my bio, I had to work across multiple African countries for a disease surveillance project that we were working on to help with the eradication of polio. And it had its highlights and its lowlights. And one of the lowlights was trying to get that political will at all levels of government that we were engaging with in each country we went to. And for some countries, it's easier. It's easier to sell your solution. But for some of the other countries, it was more difficult. A lot of stakeholder engagement meetings had to be had, a lot of cajoling, a lot of back and forth, a lot of trying to prove that you're really here for a good thing and not just to come and push your own agenda in somebody else's country and somebody else's community. So I think political will is sometimes a challenge, depending on where you're going to implement your program or your project. Aside from that, I think capacity of team members can sometimes be a challenge. So many times we have great ideas we want to accomplish and great things we want to implement, but sometimes we don't have the right fit, the right team fit to execute and implement. And I'm very big on capacity building of teams, and that's internal teams, even before we show up to go and support anybody else. Because I think many times if you don't have that capacity built, whether it's in communication, in execution, in reporting, in stakeholder management, you will see so many issues on the ground when you're dealing with people live and direct. So I think that's another challenge that I've had to also engage with and deal with, and also work around through trainings, capacity building sessions, and things like that. And then another challenge I would say is, I don't want to mention money, so I'm trying my best to stay away from money because I think it's the easiest thing to mention. So I try to stay away from that one. We all know that one is there. But aside from that, I think also mindsets can be a challenge. So just from my experience in the past, for some projects, I had gone in with the mindset that it was going to be a simple road. It wasn't going to be so challenging. We have a good idea. I'm dealing with reasonable people. They will see the reason behind this idea. And I think that's just a little ignorant, because the more you learn about interpersonal relationships with people and stakeholder relation management, you realize that people are different. We all have different ways of seeing things, different points of views. And what looks like a great idea to me might not come up as a great idea to the next person. So I think that mindset of, you need to go in with a mindset of, okay, I'm open to new ideas. I'm open to suggestions. I'm open to how we can take this original plan and completely work it around to suit the people who are here to help. So I think, yeah, mindset can be a challenge if you don't go in with that kind of open-mindedness.
Oh, thank you very much, Adah. Pauline, I would like to hear from you, but there's still like a rider, like I would want to ask. Okay, so maybe, sorry, Pauline, just a minute. So, Adah, with all these challenges, have you ever actually had the experience whereby you come into a place with a project or an intervention, and then you've had to go back to design or redesign whatever you had in mind? Or did you just push through that this thing must work by fire and force?
Okay, so I've had both situations where I was like, this thing must work. After all the work we put in, this thing must work. And thankfully, the stakeholders complied. Then I've also had the situation where we went in to do, let me give an example. So we went into a state in northern Nigeria to do surveillance, supportive supervision actually for healthcare workers during a polio effort. And we had the idea that, okay, we've developed this simple mobile tool that can be used for data entry to ensure that the supervisors assigned to each community show up on the day they're supposed to show up at the right time, and they visit every household they're supposed to visit. It seemed simple enough. But once we implemented it, we realized, Kai, this is our solution. It doesn't bless me. There are so many holes in this thing. From the data entry factor of things, like people were entering data that didn't even meet the standard we were asking for because we didn't put in the accurate data entry checks to limit the kind of data they could enter. Or things like, okay, mobile network issues in some communities, it wasn't working. Sorry, pardon the noise, that's the blender in the kitchen. Food is being prepared. So yeah, so that experience was really eye-opening for me because we had so many issues on ground. And I was like, well, this is like one of the most simple initiatives I've ever had to be part of. Yeah, it's one of the most complicated and challenging results we got. So yes, so we had to go back, rework the mobile application, keep reworking it, and keep testing new versions of it. And eventually, long story short, we ended up discontinuing that effort after a few years. And that taught me a lot. It really taught me that you should never underestimate any initiative, never think it's a small one that should just work simply. Always factor in what could possibly go wrong. Network issues, non-compliance of supervisors, data entry issues, things like that. So yeah, it's done both ways.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Adah. So for you, Pauline, I want you to look at the challenges or distractions that you have faced now internally, because Adah has done a good job or a great job of actually showing us like the broad, this, of course, it affected her as a person, but then maybe you would, you might want to like just bring it closer home for us.
Okay, yeah, very true. In as much as I would like to align, first of all, with the submissions of Adah, I had thought in my mind, I said a false impression about our workspace, you know, and that is largely related to the political will and all. Another is a conflict, workplace conflict. I don't know, but most of you will agree with me that there is nowhere that you would walk and say there's no conflict at all. So I have experienced where we had conflicts with our, sector manager, and the entire team really got sour, and it was difficult to uphold. My subordinates, everyone was complaining, everyone was losing the passion, losing the motivation. And that was a problem, huge problem for the team. So one of the things I thought of, first of all, I had to put myself together too. And in putting myself together, my go-to place was always to visit the field, that is, visit our facilities. And so where in a space where being the coordinator, I could visit the field like once or twice a week, I actually made it a point of duty to visit the facilities every day of the week. Going there and coming back gave me the motivation, reminded me of my purpose and my passion. And then I was able to pull the team together. I started to have team meetings in between the week for them to share what they had seen or success stories from amongst them. I also learned something from one of my previous managers, which was taking a walk with each team member. I had 7 officers that time. And so I took a walk with them just around the office compound and talked with them. What do you think? How are you feeling? And they were able to express. And I tried to also ask them the same questions. What led you to this job in the first place? And all of that. So those were the actions I took in terms of personal, challenges within the office space, especially talking about workplace conflict or unhealthy environment. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. I'm seeing the time.
Yeah, thank you very much. Both of you have done a wonderful job of highlighting the challenges. So just to like tie the two inputs or the two responses that we've received, we have the external challenges and the internal challenges. And to a large extent, from my experience, if we do not if we do not work on the internal challenges that Pauline highlighted, it can affect the work much more than the external challenges. So it's very important that we actually put ourselves to see how we can address these challenges. And a lot of times also for the external challenges, sometimes there's just no way around it. And you have to communicate to your line manager, to the donor and everything that this is not working. And that is an important thing for us to put in mind, just to mention that communication, documenting things is very important. And yeah, so just one question. I just want to find out, did any of you at any point have to look for some training, capacity development, or something like that in your ability, to improve your ability of addressing any challenge, or you just learned as you were going? Just one minute, please. Thank you. Pauline, you can start then, Adah. Okay, host, can you unmute Pauline, please? Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, I had taken this leadership course, and that was basically once I had multiple persons to supervise, and it came in really handy for me, I must say. It came in handy. It was almost exactly during this time that we had this conflict in a large team. And so that leadership training actually gave me clues to how to communicate to my manager as well as my subordinates, to rub minds and see how we can find solutions to things. And another that it really taught me was to keep an open mind. We had this challenge in one of our projects, we even had threats of it closing down and everybody would be dismissed and all of that. And by the time we had a team meeting, we didn't have a manager, but by the time we had a team meeting, the solution actually came from some of our assistants. Wow. And though we didn't have the funding for it, I was pushed. I gave the proposal to our management and she approved it from a different source of fund because we didn't even have the funding for it. And it pulled up. And at the end of the day, we were able to save the job and of course save our jobs and also complete the work that we had started. So keeping an open mind, to a large extent, I learned that from that leadership training I sat there.
Thank you. Adaeze, just the same question here.
Okay. So for me, I did a people management training early on when I had to start managing teams because I wasn't good at it. So I knew that I had already had experience earlier when I lived in the US having to manage teams before I got into the development space. And it was something interesting. I learned a lot. So I knew that I needed training to work on things like patience, to work on how to manage different personalities and things of that nature. And that was very, very helpful for me and still helps me till today. And then I also had a really, really good manager that I will forever shout her out. She was fantastic. And she was my first manager in the development space when I was working on the polio program. And she taught me so much about managing people, about handling conflict, resolving conflicts, and things of that nature. So I think the conflict resolution skills she taught me, I still use them till today.
Thank you so much to you both. We're almost wrapping up this session. I just want to remind everyone that there's a link that you can click on to just share your questions or comments if you have any. Please do that. So I just want to quickly ask you now, you've talked about the capacity building that you've had to go through at a managerial level, but how about when you were officers or when you were interns or something like that? Does that mean that the capacity development opportunities available for us to grow, like in order to address challenges, only comes or is only available for people at the managerial level? So I think, Pauline, you can just answer that so that I can go to the last question.
All right. Yes, absolutely not available only to those at the managerial levels. And I'll just use myself as an example, because if you see this course that I studied, for instance, is not nutrition. But getting into the nutrition space, I had to, on my own, take on courses that I knew would add to my capacity, to deliver better on this. And the same thing during, normal project management. Basically, I would say a few courses I actually took before I got to that position. And by the time I was there, I was ready. So it is not a thing to say, I would wait until I become the manager or a coordinator before I take certain courses. Go ahead of it already. We are all managers at different points, whether at the subordinate, at the midpoint. We all have to manage each other, whether upward or downward. So yes, I did take some of those courses, then online courses from the organization, especially. I think that is one big plus and applaud I would give to most development organizations. They make these trainings readily available for us to explore. And I would say if anyone is here and still a younger, career person, take this opportunity now to learn as much as you can, so that by the time you get really, really busy and traveling left, right, and center, you would already be equipped for any challenges at all.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I can see Adah also nodding her head to that. So yeah, also to add that, taking courses for taking courses' sake is not going to be helpful to anyone. We actually take courses because we want to improve and we want to learn. Because I've also, like in my experience, come across people that have taken 500,000 courses, but the application is zero. And then the thing about knowledge, acquiring knowledge without using it, is that it makes you puffed up and it makes you very difficult to work with. Because for you feel like I have taken these courses, this person has not done that. But because there's no application of what you have learned, you become very difficult to work with. You become so many interesting things. So please, while we're looking and exploring, all the courses that are available to us to either learning management systems in our organizations or even the free ones out there, please remember we take courses because we want to learn, we want to implement them, and we want to grow. So my final questions, if you leave me here, I have plenty questions, but then we're looking at our time and today is Friday. So how are you posturing yourself to ensure that your work remains meaningful? Now, I'm very much aware that Adaeze has pivoted from full-time development to something. You can actually share a bit of that and the thought process to that. And then also let us know how you are ensuring that your work, whatever field that you are in, remains meaningful. Because at the end of the day, our work needs to be, whatever we're doing. If I'm fetching water today for sale, how am I ensuring that that is meaningful? And Pauline, you will share with us how you're doing that. So I'm going to start with Adaeze, and then Pauline will end the session for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tobi. So I've done a bit of pivoting over the past few years. I kicked off my career in development in public health, specifically disease surveillance and polio eradication. Then I did some movement a few years ago, and I moved into like the justice space. So working with stakeholders to develop goals to improve the justice space in Nigeria and in Ethiopia. And I did some work on that. Then now I'm actively more in the MNCH space. So I like that you mentioned you do that, Pauline, because I had a child in 2022. I had my daughter, and that kind of put everything in perspective for me in terms of my own personal purpose in life, beyond just whatever job I am taking to do. And so I always feel like I was born the same time she was born. So I had like this birth of, I really want to ensure that there's more awareness and education around maternal health and around keeping women and babies alive and making sure that they come out of the delivery room alive, which unfortunately in Nigeria and many other African countries, like the maternal death rate is really, really appalling. So yes, so that's where I've kind of moved into now. So, and I might move somewhere else again, but for now, that's kind of how I've moved. Then the other question, Tobi, please remind me the other question.
How do you ensure that your work remains meaningful?
Okay, so similar to what I said earlier, I keep speaking to the people that I'm doing work for. So, for example, in the MNCH space that I'm loosely in, I don't even want to claim I'm officially there, but because I have a heart for mothers and keeping mothers alive and babies alive, I started this podcast that kicked off earlier this month called The Road to Motherhood. And my idea behind it was everything I learned from my experience, I'm going to share that with other women. And I'm going to also ensure that other women who have become mothers share their experiences to also educate women that haven't become moms yet, so that they have the best chance of going into those delivery rooms and coming out healthy, whole, with their healthy babies. So that's one way that I'm trying to ensure my work is meaningful. I want to give back from what I learned. So I think that's a big thing for me. Whatever I learn, whatever best practice I learn, whatever I failed at, I want to find a way to share that, because I believe that we all learn from experience, but you don't have to live the experience to learn. So I'm very big on sharing best practices and lessons from everything I've gone through in whatever medium I can, whether it's through a podcast or through writing articles or through newsletters or through actual project interventions created. So I try to do that, and then always communicating with those I'm trying to help, getting their feedback, getting recommendations on how to make anything I do more meaningful for them. Yeah.
Wow, thank you very much. Please, what is MNCH? I mean, because I'm not in the nutrition field, so you can help me.
Sorry, you see all these acronyms, development sector acronyms.
We have a lot of acronyms.
Maternal and child healthcare. Please, Pauline,
Okay.
that I'm on the
All
right.
right. Thank you very much. Pauline, over to you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely right, Adaeze. And so quickly, I would want to just also mention something that actually struck me years back to want to ensure that my work is meaningful, no matter where I am, is me visiting one of our facilities or communities, and a mother with her child, young child, ran after us in the vehicle till we got to the facility, and she stopped and she was speaking her language, and an interpreter was there, thankfully, and she said, "You can't remember me? You made sure my husband agreed. You went to our village head to ensure that he agreed to let me take our child to the hospital." And I was amazed because I could not recognize the child. That child was underweight and skinny and everything. In fact, I didn't even know he was going to survive. But that taught me a lot because she said, now my husband tells everybody in the village, take your children to the hospital when they are sick, and he has become an ambassador. We literally had to use the village head to command him to agree to let his wife take this child. And that has made me want to keep this on wherever I go. So how I posture myself is I am always with my MWAT strip wherever I go. I literally do my job at the airport, in the market, at the salon. When I see a group of women sitting down, the one who is pregnant is the one I would prefer to sit closer to and begin to ask antenatal questions. In the plane, I sit beside a woman and she's carrying her baby. I'm like, how old is this child? Are you doing exclusive breastfeeding? These are complementary feeding. And we become friends, we exchange numbers. I share with them this information. This has also led me to know that we would keep it, impacting lives in several ways and different ways. Another thing I did a few years back, and I still do from time to time, was to create a short, a one-pager publisher page, for instance, that describes how to prepare rich complementary meals for children from 6 months, Tom Brown in particular, which I did when I was in CRS. I did that and I tagged it for family and friends. So I shared that to a lot of people on groups, and to my personal friends. I shared to the extent that I got some calls from some hospital, from some doctors, and I was able to share more light on that. I also hope, like Adah, to organize podcasts that will talk more on nutrition and health of mothers and children. We're talking with Tobi, or like, when would we ever have that space of time to even do that? I got a ring light and all, but yes, I'm still fighting, and hopefully very soon we're able to share more information here and there. I'm also still taking trainings. Yeah, I'm still registering for trainings on MMS online. I'm registering for trainings of IYCF. My last IYCF training was in 2016 or 17. So I'm still taking trainings just to see if there are new innovations or updates, to keep myself abreast so that we can address the challenges according to the time at the moment, the economy and everything, culture. My sociology comes to play every now and then. So I'm grateful for that. Yes, thank you.
Wow, thank you so much to you both. This has been such an interesting and impactful session. I have been taking notes. So if you notice that I'm putting down my head, I'm actually just writing. So I have 2 questions here, but just before I ask you to fill the 2 questions, please, we need your feedback. We want to know how this session went. We want to know how we can improve and things like that. So Maureen has shared the feedback form. Maureen, if you can share it again, please, we request your indulgence. So please complete this form. We are almost at the end of this session. So I have 2 questions here, and I want each of you to actually just speak into it. Okay, we have 3, and these are the last questions I'm taking, 3 questions. So I'm going to start with, what gender issues do you encounter in the course of your programming, particularly around culturally sensitive areas? So Adah, 1 minute, Pauline, 1 minute, please. Thank you.
Okay, that just brought one exact example to mind. The gender issue that I dealt with was actually at the stakeholder, like implementation stakeholder level. I had to go into a stakeholder meeting to represent my organization to talk about our program work. And I saw my collaborators at the meetings, maybe about 40 to 50 people there, mainly males. It was a meeting in Abuja a few years ago. And it was time for me to speak on behalf of my organization. And I was told by the host of the meeting, who I actually work and collaborate with at the time I did, that I shouldn't be the one to speak, so that I should pass the microphone to my male colleague who came with me. So that was quite funny. I was a little bit stunned, so I didn't even know what to say. I just sat down and I gave him the mic. I'm like, by all means, speak. It seems to be you're the one. But what that taught me too was that when it comes to issues like that, you need to say something. You need to also push back, because many people have these preconceived notions in their minds of what we can do because we're women or because we're men or whatever else. And it's important to push back and remind people of the value you're bringing, because at the time I was bringing value for that program that I was on. And what I do want to also say is that when we left that meeting, my male colleague did something that I applaud till today. He spoke to my manager and informed her that that happened and that was incorrect and that should be addressed. And so my manager addressed it with our funding partners and let them know that if such behavior happens again, that we will not work with them any longer. So that was like, she took a clear step on behalf of her team member who had received some kind of gender bias. So yeah, so that's where I felt it directly that I remember. I'm sure there are others, but 1 minute, so.
Thank you very much. You just highlighted the importance of having advocates within your team and also the importance of knowing when to fight your battle, because at that point in time, it wasn't the place for you to assert yourself. So the issue of gender, we need wisdom, we need discernment. We also need advocates that we're going to work with that will speak for us. Pauline, I'm sorry, I'll give you another question because you actually spoke on it. I want you to just continue with that. Thank you for sharing your valuable knowledge and experience in this ever-changing and complex space. How can one stay relevant and keep up with the trends?
Okay, very nice. I think like I slightly highlighted before, keeping yourself up to date, keeping yourself open to relearn and unlearn, actually, and also learn new things, because the tides are changing. I'll give you a random example from what we used to know about fruits when we're growing up. They say take fruits before you start eating, as a starter. Later, they said no, in between the meals. And now we're hearing after the meals. So trends will keep changing. Researches are upcoming. Delve into them, check them out, read about them, check for courses that would, improve you as a person, not just on the course of what you're working on. Yes, you're working on nutrition. Yes, you're working on education. But what other multi-sectoral way can you engage to make your work more meaningful? I think that's the route to go right now. My project is a multi-sectoral project. So it's actually showing a difference that, working alone would not solve the problem. You have to check for the different factors. Different factors will lead you to different sectors. And it will eventually lead you also to getting to know more about food security, know more about social protection, know and read more and learn more about, all the different aspects to key in and contribute. This, for me, I think is what will help it more meaningful in our days now and in the coming days.
Very, very insightful. Thank you very much. Don't stop learning. So final question, Adaeze, I would love for you to answer this. Why do we often see sustainability as a distant goal after intervention programs, despite it being emphasized during the design stage? The big S question. Adaeze, over to you.
Tobi, that's a Pauline question.
That's a political answer.
Okay. So I think the thing when it comes to sustainability, right, is that I think we expect it to happen so quickly and to be felt and seen immediately. We finish a project or a program. I always say that one of the biggest lessons I've learned in the development space is we walk in a lot of times with unrealistic expectations. Like impact takes a long time to achieve. And there are different levels of impact. So there's impact that you can achieve within a short period of time. You kicked off a project for improving clean or improving access to clean water in a community. You brought in a borehole, water well, and okay, people are drinking clean water now. They know how to boil water on the stove so that they can actually limit waterborne diseases and things like that. Okay, fine. That's immediate impact you're seeing in a short period of time, maybe 6 months after you implement, 1 year after you implement. But I think when we keep talking about sustainability, we have this idea that it's just something that's going to happen like this, and we'll just be able to identify it immediately we finish a project. I think it takes time to see something sustainably play out after you have brought in your intervention or your project or your program. I think it's a long game thing. I don't think it's a short-term thing. But I think our mindset is a bit wrong. I think we think, oh, it should just be easy to have something sustainable. It's not. It's a long game. It takes time. It takes failing along the way, lessons learned, adjusting your plans, adjusting your interventions, making changes, going back and seeing what to throw away, what to keep, on learning, like Pauline said. So I just think sustainability is a long game, and we should see it that way. And we shouldn't let ourselves get too discouraged. And in the meantime, as we're playing this long game, we should mark the milestones along the way we're achieving and celebrate those. That's the way I see it. My political answer.
No, but absolutely, like what you said is true. It's a long-term game. And something that I've also learned recently is also like how we do our programming. Apart from the fact that impact, you know, there are different levels of impact, and then sustainability being a long-term game, there's also the importance for us to check how we do our programming. For those of us that have worked in the humanitarian sector, a lot of our work is direct implementation or service delivery. So we're coming in to help the government to do or to fill a gap or fill a need. There's an aspect of, yeah, we're working with the government, we're building their capacity and things like that, but then the program itself is owned by the people doing the work. But then there's also the aspect of system strengthening, which I think is important, especially in development space, where the projects are long-term. So that's change in mindset of, okay, how do I strengthen the system? You know, that's the government to do what I'm doing, you know, without necessarily saying this is my own work. But then this will be a conversation, a longer conversation for another session. We have come to the end of this wonderful Q&A session. I want to thank Adaeze, Nwanyibuife, I got it right, and Pauline, Adah. Thank you so much for sharing your wealth of experiences, your insight, and even like, yeah, just going and being vulnerable. So we really appreciate it. Please, everyone, let's give them a round of applause. I want to see the chats blowing up and just tell them thank you very much. We hope that your doors will be open for us anytime we need you. Thank you. So, hi, everyone. It's me again. I just want to say thank you for staying with us so far. Please, we have the evaluation form. Please, 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 we need you to complete it. I want to say that we actually did well in sticking with us from the beginning. We started with about 58 or so, and we're dropping to 45. But I just want to say thank you for staying with us. It's not easy to actually give us your time, your weekend. So before you go, we're going to be Olivatist again and ask you to please complete the evaluation form. We really need your feedback. We need your opinion so that we can be better. Also, you can follow us on our social media channel. That's at the Development Conversations on Instagram. And then also, yeah, you can also, we can also connect on LinkedIn, Tobi Ransomed, for further conversations. We want to keep this conversation going. We're going to be sharing, you know, some of the lessons learned from this session and the things like that, Thank you once again for such a wonderful time with us. We hope you have a wonderful evening and a wonderful weekend. To our speakers, we thank you. And then to my wonderful team at the Development Conversations, Favor and Maureen, I really thank you for supporting me to see that this happens today. Bye, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.